We're looking live now at Jerusalem, where Israelis are waiting to see what comes next after Hamas handed over all living hostages from Gaza. It's about 7:45 in the morning. Now, the transfer triggered a new ceasefire, part of former President Trump's Gaza peace plan. Not former. He is the current president. But with bodies still unaccounted for and negotiations ahead, the question now is whether this truce will last. We are going to bring in national security analyst Hal Kempfer. He joins us now live. And Hal, your basic impressions when all of this transpired overnight with the hostages coming out and the beginning of the captives from Israel going back to Gaza. What is your impression?
Susan, my impression is that it actually went much better than what I feared it might go. They did get all the live hostages out, all 20. That was good. It happened very fast. It happened in a very orderly manner. Hamas did not do those kind of parade show things that they had done in the past, which were simply humiliating for the hostages, but it was to embarrass Israel. They didn't do any of that stuff.
They
turned
allowed.
them over. The hostages came back, and they got medical care. That went very well.
Yeah, in fact, it was quite notable to see that they look pretty good, the hostages, considering that they've been in captivity or not really in tunnels or whatever for just over 2 years. So at this point, for those who can't grasp the historic moment, can you put it in perspective, why this is so notable?
This isn't just a ceasefire. This is actually the end of the Palestinian-Israeli conflict, potentially. It's not there yet. There's a lot more to be done. They have to disarm Hamas. They have to get PFLP and Palestinian Islamic Jihad, who are there as well, to also disarm. They have to remove Hamas from governance. I mean, there's a lot of things, along with rebuilding Gaza, has to be done. But if you looked at what happened today in Sharm el-Sheikh, you had 20 leaders. You had leaders from not only around the Middle East, but from Europe, major European leaders. You had South Asian leaders. You had the president of Indonesia there, the largest Muslim country in the world. All were there, showing commitment to what's happening here. This is just, I hate to say it, the word unprecedented has been used in an unprecedented rate, but this was truly unprecedented.
But there are those who point out that Israel wasn't there, Netanyahu wasn't there, nor was there a representative from Hamas, which they were not allowed to be there, clearly, but that also suggests that this is a tenuous agreement at best.
Well, there's a lot of things to be worked through. You know, all the things with the phase 2 I just talked about. And by the way, they did not get all the deceased hostages back. That seems to be something Hamas is slow rolling, if you will. And already there's accusation Hamas is not living up to what it agreed to do. So that's a problem. Now, on Netanyahu showing up in Egypt for this thing probably would have been politically more problematic for a number of the leaders there than if he didn't show up. It happens to be a religious holiday, a Jewish holiday. So that did kind of work. You know, he said, look, I'm going to observe the Jewish holiday. And frankly, that kind of made it easier for everybody there. But be sure a lot's going to happen. Indonesia's president is talking about going to Israel, meeting with Netanyahu. That is a significant change. That could trigger an expansion of the Abraham Accords, which is Arab countries and Muslim countries normalizing relations with Israel. That is a potentiality that comes out of this.
Well, there's some suggestion that a lot of those world leaders that you saw at that peace summit would not have attended if Bibi had insisted on being there. So it was sort of a democratic thing to, you know, for him to stay away and use the holiday as an excuse. But when you look ahead, how there are already some signs that there is a little bit of weaknesses, that Hamas has taken over some of the areas that were once occupied by the Israeli Defense Force. So doesn't that too suggest that things are kind of fragile, to say the least?
Susan, yes, to say the least, is absolutely correct. Yes, the vacuum of authority that was left when Israeli Defense Forces pulled out was immediately filled by Hamas flooding the streets with their fighters, trying to take control. Not unexpected, but certainly a little disconcerting considering what just happened. However, what's interesting is Hamas is having firefights with other groups, other Palestinian groups in Gaza right now. There's been some contention for territory, neighborhoods, things like that. That's interesting. I don't know if it'll don't think it's going to break down to a civil war, but you could see some significant civil conflicts happening within the Palestinian area. Now, the big thing is they've got to get something in there to replace that vacuum. And that's where you talk about this international stabilization force. It's also something Egypt had kind of alluded to today, that there is they've been training for months, this Palestinian police force that would go into Gaza. And they feel that they're pretty much ready to deploy into Gaza. So if they can get that part of the agreement put into place, that might help fill that vacuum. That also might help, move things along towards eventually disarming PIJ, Hamas, and these other groups. And will help with stabilization. All right, Hal Kempfert, thank you so much for joining us. And he has a podcast if you want to listen to it. It's called Strapped. We'll be right back.